South-South Economic Summit for 2012 is holding. Well, this morning we're joined by His Excellency Emmanuel Uduaghan, Governor of Delta State. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you, and good morning.
Well,
and welcome to Asaba.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yes, indeed, it has started in earnest. So much was said yesterday, and perhaps you should just get your assessment so far from what has been said. And of course, a lot of sessions will also hold today. Would you say it's on course at the moment?
Yes, it's on course. We set out, first of all, to bring people to the South-South to see what is existing in the South-South, hear what is existing in the South-South, and be able to join things together for the future of the South-South. Coming to Asaba at all, by a lot of the places we saw yesterday, in fact, I was amazed by the number of places that came to Asaba, has brought Asaba, and of course, by extension, the other parts of the South-South, to the consciousness of many Nigerians, especially in the area of investment. Then on the content itself, a lot was discussed yesterday, and I think we've started very well. So far, so good.
What about the fact that, you had representatives from the president of Rwanda, the president of the country? Does that in any way take anything away? Because you have people who thought, wait a minute, we thought that we should have seen them here to give a lot of bite and zest to the entire summit.
Yes, there's no doubt for us. We were slightly disappointed that they didn't come in person. But you see, when you hold such positions, anything can happen. So we accepted it the way it happened. But that they were not here did not remove the fact that that contribution also made a lot of impact in the summit. Because the Rwanda president, for instance, sent an address which was read. And, our own president also was represented by the vice president and read the president's address. So their physical presence may have added more glamour and other things to the summit, but it didn't remove the content that we expected from them.
You know, one aspect we picked from that address sent by the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, represented by Mr. John Gara. You know, he talked about the challenges of doing business as well in Rwanda. And if we want to talk about regional integration, how we can develop the region, we also would be looking at how easy it is to do business within the South-South region. Well, for him, he says that now in the entire country, doing business or setting up your business takes less than 6-7 hours.
Yeah.
So how can we do all of that if you're bringing people from outside the country to come invest, or from other regions to come and invest here in the South-South region? How easy can it be now that all the 6 states have come together under the BRICS Commission?
Now, let me start like this. There's usually an annual assessment by World Bank on the ease with which people can do business among all the states of the Federation. And in that assessment, for us as Delta, for instance, we didn't think we're doing well in that assessment. And what were the problems? One, the ease with which you acquire land. It's pretty difficult. It takes quite a long time to acquire the land, the registration of your papers, and so many other things, the legal issues. And so for us as a state, we unveiled yesterday at the exhibition stand what we call the one-stop shop. Now, in that one-stop shop, there are 9 things that we can do for you from the same office. Instead of moving from office to office, going to Ministry of Land, going to Ministry of Commerce and Industry, going to other ministries to get what you're supposed to get, you just enter the office, and there are designated persons from the various ministries in that office that will help you to get your business started. And we also expect, so it's one of the things we are selling to the South-South Economic Summit, that every state should have that kind of one-stop shop. And through that one-stop shop, it will be easier to do business. It was amazing hearing them saying within 6 hours, you can do everything. I think it's also achievable. Now, I must say this about Rwanda. Rwanda, what I picked up from Rwanda, and I've also been there, is that the people have the will to do whatever they have set out to do. And that is very key in anything we are doing. The people must have the will, they must have the determination that want to do this and be determined to succeed in it. There's nothing that is impossible for us. Nothing that is happening in any advanced country that we cannot do here. If we have the will and determination to say we want to do it, we set out our mind to do it, we will definitely.
How can we tap into that, knowing full well that people from the region have that same will? We've seen that from Edo Delta straight to Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, they have that same will. So how can it be harnessed?
Yes, first is to continue to talk to ourselves, continue to remind ourselves that this world is quite short. What is important is what you leave behind. You know, it's not what you go away with, but what you leave behind when you die. Now, talking of regional integration, of that will, is this coming together to start with, and talking to ourselves. Then the planning. I understand that the Brace Commission DG was here yesterday or the day before, and through the commission, the Brace Commission itself, we've been able to get people from the various states to be under that office, and from that office we are able to design or plan some of the things we want to do as a region. But it's for us to be determined that, look, our South-South region, it is possible for us to make a difference in this country. It is possible for us to start the kind of development that will bring this country to the same level with other developed countries. It is possible to start it from the South-South region.
You know, security continues to remain a thorny issue, and you have decided to prioritize it in the South-South Economic Summit. The question is, I mean, even though over the years the South-South has been able to combat what used to be its own peculiar problem in this particular region, there seems to be a general problem presently. How do you seek to work with the federal government so that it doesn't spread down this way and chase the investors that you're looking for?
Yes, first, talking about security and investment, I think it was CBN governor who said that security is not the greatest problem for investors. The greatest problem for investors is good governance. And what does that mean? This issue of being able to register your business early, as quickly as possible, and then legal issues that protects your investment. These are two basic problems for investors in this country. I tend to believe him because Israel has security issues, but it's one of the countries that people go to for investment. If anything happens to your investment, it's legally protected. But in this country, I tell you that our arbitration laws are still very weak on protection of investment. Now, having said that, how do we now work with the federal government in dealing with the security issues? Yes, most of the security agencies are under the control of the federal government. That's why we'll be agitating for state police. But until that happens, we need to work with what is on ground currently. And the reality of what's on ground is that most of the security agencies are under the federal government. Well, we are called chief security officers. Yes. What we do really is being able to assist the security agencies at the state level, logistics and other support, and of course ensuring that in drawing out our program, there are two areas. First, the area of engagement in the sense that these youth causing security problems, they are our own blood. I cannot just say, oh, soldier, go and start shooting every youth as a way of solving the problem. Let us engage these youths that are causing the problem while maintaining law and order. So we have two boxes, a box of engagement, and that engagement also includes empowerment, development, and other things that will reduce the pool of youths that are available to be recruited for criminal activities. Because if you don't reduce that pool by engaging them, by empowering them, you continue to have criminal activities. If those recruiters go to the pool and find that the pool is very much reduced, the youths, they go to work in the morning, come in the evening, there's no time to interact with them for recruitment, the criminality will be reduced. So talking about working with the federal government, logistics support, engagement, while the federal government also provides the security agencies that will deal with the aspect of law and order.
Well, listen to Professor Wale Soyinka's speech yesterday. One of the things that struck one was his take on the call for a sovereign national conference, which he said that he's not going to make again, but he's with a caveat saying that it doesn't take away his rights. It's not going to abdicate his right to comment on it. And he believes that a summit like this is one of the ways to talk or walk what would have been the outcome of a sovereign national conference. When the Southern leaders got together, were they thinking along those lines rather than calling for a sovereign national conference, which a host of other regions are already beginning to call for under whatever guise, trying to make the center a little less stronger and making the regions or the parts stronger? Were they thinking along those lines?
Yes, we're thinking along those lines. Well, let me say this. To deal with any conflict, to deal with most problems that involve human beings, you must provide a table for people to sit down and discuss. Now, I think what the problem is really is the name, Sovereign National Conference. Whatever that means, people have their different interpretations. They believe that once you call it a Sovereign National Conference, the government on seat should step aside and all that. I think that's where the debate is. But as for providing an avenue for people to talk, we must provide such avenue for people to talk, whether at the national level, whether at the regional level, whether at the state level, whether at the local government level, even whether at the community level. We must sit down to discuss issues. Like he said yesterday, he will not talk about Sovereign National Conference again, but he will talk about continuous dialogue. And that is what I believe we should do at various levels. It could be youths, gathering youths, even youths among themselves, discussing their future. It could be at inter-ethnic level, discussing the future. It could be at the state level or at the regional level like we have here today. Since yesterday, not just during the conference, even after the conference, a lot of the issues that were raised during the conference were being discussed outside the conference. At the dinner yesterday, people sitting on the same table, they were discussing issues. And unless we're going to discuss these issues and find solutions to these issues, we'll continue to have problems. But I believe that we must discuss some of these issues.
Well, there's some of those issues he did talk about. He spoke on transportation. He also spoke on education. But again, I want us to look at some specifics now. In your own state, you talked about eloquently about the youth, how you can empower them. How can you do that? Every day we wake up to hear stories about youth empowerment, and at the end of it all, it looks like it's just talk and nothing is done. From your own experience, what have you done and what can be seen so that when you talk, people can say truly the youth of Delta State specifically have been empowered?
Okay, my own approach is, first of all, to ensure that the youths are educated. And education of the youths start from, let me not call it education, everything about development of the youths start from the first day the father and the mother meet and the pregnancy occurs. Okay, but that is our own plan starts from that first day of pregnancy to when the child becomes a youth or even becomes an adult. And what does that mean? The quality of a child that is delivered might determine what that child becomes later in life. If that child is delivered in an environment that has poor quality, a child that does not cry early or has problems during the process of delivery, that child might end up with as a deviant in society. So what we have done is to ensure that every child that is delivered in a quality environment and quality care. So from the day of pregnancy to the day of delivery, we have ensured that every pregnant woman has access to health care. And that means that you do not have to pay for the health care. They used to pay, but now they do not have to pay. And after the delivery, from that day of delivery for 5 years, you also have access to free health care. Of course, for the school age, access to education. Access to education means that you do not have to stop education because of lack of money. So we have made education free at the secondary school level. Of course, in the university, we have also given various scholarships, and after the university, postgraduate scholarships. Every first class indigenous of Delta gets a postgraduate and gets automatic scholarship to any university, 5 million a year. Now, that means that the child is educated up to the youth level. The next challenge is, after being educated, what happens? How does the child get empowered, or how does the youth not get empowered? That is the biggest challenge that we have. employment of youth or job creation. That's a big challenge. There are two strategies in the area of job creation. One strategy is to attract investment. Of course, attracting investment means that we need to deal with the problems of infrastructure, problems of power, problems of transportation, problems of ICT, problems of urbanization. So strategically, we have made those plans to ensure that we attract investment. I mean, when I talk of transportation, because I'm in Asaba, the issue of the airports is very key. Now, that is a long-term plan. It takes about 4 to 5 years to get all those big companies into place. But on the lower level, that is what we call the low-hanging fruit. What are we doing? Is to start we started a microcredit scheme, which has been on for about 3 years. These have been able to engage some youths and of course women. But the other thing we have also done is to look at the area of agriculture, which we believe that is a potential area that can engage a lot of youth. Now, we've had 2 programs on agriculture for our youth. What do? We gather youth from every local government council, train them on various agric methods, farming methods, poultry production, cassava, and all that. And we now set up farms for them in their locality, either as clusters, that is 5-6 youths, only one farm, and only one farm, or as individuals. Because whether I would like it or not, there are some youths that cannot work with another person. So they have their individual farms. But you see, the numbers compared to the population of youths, there's a lot of work to do.
Okay, pardon me. I was going to ask. I mean, are you keeping statistics about all of that to measure your success rates and where you need to improve in terms of the unemployment rates, those who have been employed, and how you intend to take it further?
Yes, we are keeping statistics. We are keeping statistics. But you see, having said all that, we still have a very big challenge, especially in the South-South region, in the Niger Delta region, where oil and gas business is a big issue. And what has this done over the years? Some youths, for one reason or the other, have access to big money. So when you now tell that youth, look, come and do this job that will give you, or you tell some other youth, come and do this job that will give you maybe a salary, a monthly salary. You say, this small salary. No, I would rather wait and do the big one. And what is that? What is doing that big one? Busting pipelines and doing other criminal activities that makes them get money quickly. So we have that big challenge. The next question I know you may ask is, how do we deal with that challenge? And that is where we come to this process of continuous engagement, getting them to know that pipeline they are busting, that kidnapping they are doing to give them quick money is not sustainable. First of all, it's criminal, and it cannot move them that far, and can also make them lose their life very quickly. Instead, doing regular jobs, acceptable jobs, is better.
What about the private sector? How are you involving them in all of these stages? Because yes, we know they are the ones driving this summit, but what about their capacity, boosting their capacity in the state?
Yeah, what concerns the private sector really is protection of their investment. First of all, the reducing their overhead or cost of production, and how do you help them to do that? By providing the infrastructure that I've said, the power, because most companies now, about 45% of their of what they use they spend on power. How can we reduce that cost? We can provide the power. Working with the federal government, we can provide the power. Of course, transportation, good roads for them, and all that. Then, of course, making it easy for them to come and invest in the state. But one part of the private sector that we are still weighing, and we are weighing very seriously, is the financial sector. Because we have a lot of our youths who know what to do. They want to do things, but they don't have access to funds. And there's just very little we can do as a state to fund such projects. Of course, we don't fund it directly, because from our experience, If you fund it directly, it's taken as a Christmas gift. So we're not sending it through the microfinance banks, or we are partnering with a bank like a Bank of Industry. We give us for some funds. They also bring some funds, and they assess the projects and do the funding and monitor it. So our appeal to these financial institutions, the banks and all that, let every bank drop a program of being able to assist small-scale businesses. It is very important. We have a lot of our youths who are very ingenious. They know a lot, but they don't have access to funds. For you to get money from the bank, you need to have collaterals. You need to have the interest rates are quite high. So we've been telling the federal government the policies at the federal level to ensure that people have cheaper access to funds have to be looked at. So coming back to your question of the private sector, we require the private sector to assist our entrepreneurs, whether they are youths, women, to have access to funds. And we also require the private sector to come and invest in Delta. We have a lot of investors to come in.
Well, Your Excellency, we don't have time. We actually leave in now, but before we go, some people will not forgive us if we don't ask this question. The seniors, the care for the seniors in your community. We're talking about the pensioners. What do you have for them?
Oh, for the pensioners, we first of all, let me assure you that we protect the funds for our pensioners.
Has anybody taken their money? Are you going there?
No. We take pension very seriously. And I'll tell you my personal reason why I take pension. My parents, they worked until they became pensioners. And my mother, before she died, I had to take her to the office in Edo State every month to collect her pension. It was very small, but it was very important to her. She didn't need it for anything, but it was very important that at the end of the month, I had to drive her. Then I was a commissioner for her. I had to take her to the office. She would collect the money. Even though I was a commissioner, she would give me some, give my sister. She had a way of distributing the money. And for her, it was very important. My father too also had the same. So it's important that we protect the money for pensioners, and it's important that we pay them at the appropriate time. And for us in Delta, it's something we take very seriously.